Last month we looked at Hedging Peloton Interactive, one of the big winners of the COVID-19 economy. Since then, the shares have continued their parabolic climb. They're now up about 290% year to date. So let's take another look at Hedging Peloton shares if you're long the stock. The first thing we'll do is open up the Portfolio Warmer iPhone app and enter in the symbol for Peloton, PTON. Then we'll enter in a number of shares. Here, I'll enter in 1,000 shares, but that could be 100, any number you like. And in the next field, we'll enter in the lowest decline, or the largest decline that we're willing to risk over the time frame of the hedge. Since you're up so much, since you're up 290% year to date, if you've been long the stock since then, I figure you're going to have somewhat more of a risk tolerance than someone who's in a more conservative stock. Again, you decide to enter what you like here, but for this example, I'll enter 30%. And then the next field lets us decide what the time frame of the hedge is going to be. It can be anything from later this week to January of 2023, every available options expiration. But I'm going to stick with our default here, which goes for the options expiring approximately 6 months out. And here we find the optimal puts to hedge Peloton against a greater than 30% decline between now and mid-April. And as you can see, the cost of this hedge was $16,400. That worked out to a cost of 14.73% of position value. Now that was calculated conservatively using the ask price of the puts. In practice, you can often buy and sell options at some price between the bid and ask. But still, this is pretty expensive. So let's look at a way of lowering the cost of hedging. One way we can do that, if we tap the back button, we can indicate in the cap field that we're willing to cap our possible upside over the time frame of the hedge. Here, I'll enter in 30% again and find optimal hedge. And this time, we're presented with an optimal collar. And in this case, the cost of the hedge is negative. The net cost is negative $8,350. That means that when opening this collar, we would receive a net credit of $8,350. That worked out to a negative 7.5% cost as a percentage of position value, and annualized, that was negative 14.43% of position value. But if we just look out over the next 6 months, what this means is we capped our upside at 30%, but when we take into account that negative hedging cost of 7.5%, our upside here is actually 37.5% in the best case scenario. And then worst case scenario, we still managed to hold on to most of our gains from 2020. So something to look at if you're long Peloton, and you can play around with the inputs here if you want to give yourself a higher upside or if you want to take lower risk on the downside. So for example, here I entered 35% as our cap, and the hedging cost is still negative, but here it's negative 3.95% instead of negative 7.5%. So something to think about if you're long Peloton.